Welcome to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison.
I'm Molly, a former skeptic turned full-time energy healer and teacher.
And I'm Madison, a born and raised witch running my family's crystal shop.
And we're here to explore all things woo through the lens of both science and spirituality so that you can find the moments of magic in your everyday life and create an intentional spiritual practice.
So if that's what you're into, find a cozy spot, take a deep breath, and let's demystify some magic. Howdy doody, friends.
Howdy doody do, friends.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. You said doo-doo. We are going fully off the rocker today, off the rails. We're just doing a little Q&A moment for you. We are leaning into the spirit of this season, and we're letting it be easy. And by that, we mean letting you give us the content. We'll talk about whatever you want us to talk about as long as you guys decide. As long as I don't have to make a choice, you know?
I'm excited. I love these Q&As, and y'all apparently also love them because you tell us you do. So, hey, it's great.
This feels like a symbiotic relationship to me. Mm-hmm. We love to make them. You like to listen to them. Let's do it.
Yep. I do have one big announcement before we dive in, though.
Let's do it.
Because if you're listening to this the week that it comes out and your butt is not on the wait list for Reiki training, you're going to want to scroll down, go to the description of this episode, and get on the wait list because registration opens only to the wait list on February 9th. Last year we sold out very, very quickly. So if you want to learn Reiki from me this season, definitely get on there before February 9th.
Woohoo! Highly recommend. Before we dive deep on these questions, Molly, what was your magic moment this week?
My magic moment is we got our first real snow. And by real snow, I mean we've had some snow, but not really, not so much that you'd walk outside and your shoes would be full of snow. That's how I determine if it's real snow or not. Anyways, we had our first real snow overnight. And so I got to see the boys jump like a little dolphin in and out of the snow this morning. And it just sparked so much joy. Aww. And just reminded me of the little things. Cute little doggy running through the snow.
Tender.
What's yours?
Mine is thankfully not snow. Listening to you talk about the cold always reminds me what
I heard it's going to snow in Florida.
It is going to snow in Florida in the Panhandle. Not where I live, for those who are curious. Oh. No. There's I think the last time it snowed in the Tampa Bay area was in the 70s or 80s. I saw a picture of it earlier today, someone had shared. But it is Florida cold is interesting, and I've seen a lot of people talking about it in a way that makes me feel validated. People moving from up north down to Florida saying that the Florida cold just feels different, and it's because it's so humid here. It's imagine just being in the kind of chilly weather, but you're wet, you're damp all over.
No.
It feels much worse than it is, and so it is really cold here this week. And that is
how cold is really cold, Madison?
It's the lows are in the low 40s, which is abnormal for Florida. But the feels is in the low 30s.
Okay. It's 23 right now.
I didn't say that it's the coldest place in the world. I said that it feels different and it's wet and it's gross and I don't like it. And you know what? That's why we live in Florida.
I love that for you. The other day it was 35 and I was wearing a tank top and I got on a Zoom call with someone in Tampa and he was like, I'm surprised you're not wearing sleeves. And I was like, yeah, it's springtime here. It's in the mid 30s.
Nope. That is and you know what? When you're here in July and it's 104 degrees and you're suffering and I'm waving my hands in the air, living my best life, it's a give and trade. It's a give and take.
It is a give and trade. So what you're saying is I need to be in Florida this time of year. You need to be in Maine this summer.
Yes. Love that. Love that plan.
Hint.
Hint. All right. Anyways, now that we've talked about what's not my magic moment, my magic moment is... Did you like that preamble, you guys, where I just talked about the weather and didn't answer the question? I thought it was fun. So... If you've listened to this podcast for a while, you'll know that every year my mom and I go to the Tucson Gem Show. Mm-hmm. It's the largest gem show in the world. It's where we go and we buy all of our crystals that we're going to sell basically throughout the year. We go to two gem shows. One's in September in Denver. That's the second largest. Tucson is the biggest. And so I leave next week. By the time that you guys hear this, I'll be like on my plane home. But at the time of recording, I'm in like the preparation phase of like we're, you know, like running reports of what does well, like what we need, what are the new stones that we haven't been able to find before that we want to have, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's really become like a very reflective time for me because it's like a real mark of progress of like what our planning looks like, what our like buying goals are, how much, like what volume we buy, like because literally at the end of the week that we're there, we have to weigh everything to ship it. And so it's like been a way that we see this growth. And now this year it's become like a way that I've seen the growth in our team where every year, last year coming home from the Tucson Gem Show was the first time that I had someone whose sole job was to help me process the crystals and like get them on the floor. Before then it was pretty much just me. That was like my responsibility was to manage that situation. And this year, as we're preparing to go, like there are so many more people now trained on how we do that process. And we've like gotten the system down of how we organize things, like what we got where and what did we pay for it and whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That I'm like really excited to go. And I'm always excited to go on this trip, right? Like it's always really fun, but it is also really exhausting. And there's been like this resistance in me every year of whatever we buy, I'm thinking through the lens of the work that I'll have to do for it later.
Yeah.
And the work that mom and I will have to do. Because so if you don't know, when you go to a gem show and you like buy these rocks, you pick out exactly what you want to purchase. And then it's like going to the mall. Like you have to take it with you.
Yeah. You got to pack it. You got to unpack it. You got to transport it.
You got to walk it to the car.
Label it. You got to measure it. Yeah.
And it's not like walking out to the parking lot of your local Target. It's like the car is maybe a quarter mile away. You have your wagon and you're trying to carry as much as you possibly can without having to go all the way back to the car because it's such a bitch to go back to the car.
Yeah.
And so this year, my partner Drew is able to come with us and be a little bit of the muscle and also the one amongst us that does not have ADHD. And so we've got a neurotypical mind.
Bless him.
And a body that goes to the gym. Like,
bless him.
I've got a wagon pusher.
Saint Drew saves
I've got a driver. Like, it's really great. And he came with us to Denver this most recent time, and it was so helpful. And so now having him in this like much bigger situation as well, I'm like, I feel very free going into this trip where I'm like, okay, I have help in all areas, you know?
Yeah, you can have fun.
This does not just like fall on me when we get home to make this work, you know?
Yeah.
And so now I'm like excited in a way that I haven't been before, you know? Like it's always excitement laced with this.
Plus,
like,
yeah.
Okay, like I gotta hype myself up, like we're gonna do this, it's gonna be okay. Whereas things feel a lot lighter this year and I'm very excited, and it, you know, it's just a reminder of how far we've come and how much the store has grown, that we somehow every year still need so many rocks. And so if you follow us on Instagram, you might have seen, I'll make like a little story highlight for crystal shopping because you guys always love it when I share the kind of like behind the scenes over there. So maybe check us out on Instagram and maybe I'll have been a little bit more organized in my sharing this year.
Maybe.
Could be fun. First question, which I love this question. What are you calling in right now?
What am I calling in right now? That's a great question. This year, I'm very intentionally focused on my health. Last year, I was so focused on, I don't even want to say like my business, but like streamlining everything in my work life that I let my health kind of like take the back burner. Like this is embarrassing, but I'm going to share it because it's so real. I was looking at my health data on my phone from last year, and I averaged less than 3,000 steps a day, which is like, that is rough. I was like, wow, no wonder I get winded walking upstairs. So this year I am very much like calling in those habits that I know I have, but I just like haven't I've had my blinders on for the last year, and like moving didn't help, and like all this stuff with Herc, and last year was just like there was a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
So this year I'm really prioritizing like the foundation, like sleep well, eat well, move, drink water, do things that are good for my mental health, cut out the bullshit, that type of thing. Find like a work-life balance again. So I'm calling in support with that. What about you?
I love that. First of all, right now I am really like, I don't know how else to describe it other than like, I'm just calling in love. I'm trying to have a more like grounded practice of self-love and self-care, kind of like in the same note as what you're talking about, where I feel like I have not really been like the main character in my own mental story, like I've let the store be her own character.
Yeah.
Getting Spellcrafter off the ground has like been a big thing that has like not only taken up, it's not just about time. I think that's something that is a common misconception with like entrepreneurship, is that it's like so much brain space. Yes.
Yeah. It's like I can't focus on making lunch because I'm focused on, I've had a personal trainer for the last couple of years. And the reason I started working out with the trainer is because of something the owner of the gym said to me. And he said to me, the reason that you're struggling to prioritize your health is because all day long, you are the one making decisions. You are the one in charge. You are the one running the show. So when you get to the end of your workday, the last thing you want to do is plan a meal or plan a workout.
Totally. And so that's why I've like really become like a fitness class girly. Like that's not something that I ever thought would be my vibe, but I just really have loved like an hour in my day 3 times a week when I turn my brain off and I just am doing what somebody else has to do.
Yeah, you're not in charge. Yeah, that's why I love my trainer, is because I go in and he's like, what do you want to, he used to ask me, what do you want to do today? And I'm like, I don't want to be in charge of this hour.
Yeah, this is your hour.
Yeah, I was like, you tell me what to do. I don't want to count. I don't want to plan the next thing. I don't even want to know what we're doing next because I don't want to think about it. Just tell me what we're doing right now. Force me to be in this present moment.
Yeah, so I'm just like really trying to pull in more brain space even and like fill that space with love and intention for like myself, and give that intention to my partner and my friends, and like fostering that kind of love as well. Yeah, I guess I'm really just trying to pull in more brain space.
Yeah, brain space is nice. Yeah, I feel like I've been really trying to do that too, and I've found like little by little just like what a game changer it feels like. I feel like with brain space, you don't realize how little you have until you've gone without it for a while. So like yesterday when TikTok was banned for like 14 hours, I was like, what do I do?
Yes.
And I got to be like, what do I want to do? And I was like, I think I want to go for a walk.
Honestly.
I was like, wow, okay. Where did that thought come from?
That's not like me. Honestly, the 14 hours without TikTok made me have like a serious moment of, I fear I might need to go to phone rehab.
Do you have an app that sets limits for you?
No. And I won't download it. I appreciate your suggestion.
All right.
But I'm just going to be so for real with you. I will not download it. I need to go to a place where they take my phone from my hands and say, I will not give it back to you. Like I can't be in charge of I can't be the warden of my phone rehab.
Yeah. Well, you can set it. The one that I use is called 1sec, and you can set it to have a passcode, and you can have like Drew set up the passcode and not tell you what it is.
No, I fear that would ruin my relationship. We like Drew too much to make him.
We like Drew too much. We need Drew to be the muscle and the neurotypical brain. Yeah.
I can't lose that.
I will tell you, I went on a yoga retreat in 2016 where I did not touch my phone for 5 days.
Ugh.
And it brought so much awareness to, and this was pre-TikTok. So like, this was pre me being on social media. So I'm sure it'd be so much harder now.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember very distinctly standing up from the last meal on the last day and checking my hoodie pocket for my phone instinctively. And I was like, it's still in my room. So it's like one of those things that every time I feel like I'm scrolling too much, I'm like, I just need to like pretend I'm on a yoga retreat. I have a friend who literally shuts her phone off. Like she deletes all her apps every Friday and doesn't reinstall them until Monday.
That's so time consuming.
I know, but after a while, she's like, it helps you prioritize because she's like, I really don't miss Twitter that much.
Yeah. I just won't do it. I'll be so for real.
You know, that's okay. As long as you make brain space elsewhere.
I'm trying my best. All right. All right. Next is, what do you think of altars in bedrooms? I've heard it's not the best idea, which is something I've never heard before. So I'm anxious to hear if you have heard that.
I have heard the opposite. I have a sleep altar in my bedroom.
Really?
Yeah, like my nightstand is my sleep altar. It's the only way I can stop myself from collecting 72 cups of water.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been in living situations before where like my altar was like I had a set of shelves that was right next to where I slept, my side of the bed.
Yeah. My altar right now is the top of my dresser because it's the only spot in my house until my office is built that is like untouched by other humans.
Yeah, my thing with altars is done is better than perfect. Wherever you can make it fit. I see people have their altars on a TV tray. Yeah, that comes up and down, you know?
I've had altars when I lived in a tiny, tiny apartment. I had a little corner shelf, and that was my altar. It was in my bedroom.
Yeah, I've never heard that it's not a good idea. I would love to know why, like what the reasoning is there. If that doesn't feel right to you to have your altar in your bedroom, put it somewhere else by all means. But I think that especially if you live in a shared space, like with roommates, apartment. You know, your bedroom is a perfect place for your altar. Like what space is more personal, you know?
Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm like, I've always had my altar in my bedroom. The only time I moved it out is when I had an office.
Yeah, when I lived alone for the first time, I had that like big ass altar.
Yeah.
That was the first time it's ever not been in my bedroom.
Yeah. But even when I had like my altar in my office, I had like a mini altar in my bedroom too.
Yeah.
So do what you want.
Yeah. We're very pro altar wherever you want it to be.
Don't alter your behavior because someone tells you it's bad.
Yeah.
Without reason. Get it? Alter your behavior.
Get it?
You didn't laugh, so I wanted to make sure you got it.
I got it.
Okay, this one's a fun one. How has your spiritual practice changed in the last year or two in ways you didn't expect?
Ooh, okay. Thinking about this one was really fun because I realized my spiritual practice has become so community-based.
Ooh, yeah, it has.
With Spellcrafter opening this year, or last year, as we're now in February.
What year is it?
Couldn't tell you anymore. We're almost on the 1-year anniversary of Spellcrafter, which is bonkers to think about. We started doing group rituals at Spellcrafter last year, and I have never had that experience before. I am so grateful to Linda for leading those. She promised me 1 year of her leading our rituals on the Sabbats, and she said, next year, when Samhain comes around next year, we're passing it off to you. She's like been writing it down for me, bless her. But doing magic with other people is not something that I really thought was in my path or in my journey. And I didn't realize how much I love spiritual hosting, basically. Yeah. Like we do it after close, and it's something that everybody on the team like really looks forward to, and we put a lot of effort into, and there's this really fun energy of like everyone comes together and we decorate the space together and everyone comes to help, and it's not even like, it's just one of those things where I really realized the power of this community, because it's just not even a question of like, oh, of course, like how can I be helpful? Where is this going? What do we need? What can I bring? Yeah. What am I doing? What element am I calling in when we cast our circle? Like everybody, this effort that everybody puts in together really means a lot to me, and it's become this really like a sense of just a source of joy for me that has like invigorated my practice. It like makes me want to have a greater spiritual connection because now I have this place that I'm showing up for others too. And I just really love it. It's really been fun. I think that's like what I've been missing for a little while, is an element of whimsy. Yeah. What about you?
I love that. I was just thinking about like 2 years ago, I don't think I would have called myself a witch.
Definitely not.
Yeah, I think that was like something that has definitely grown over the last 2 years and I've started owning. But it's so funny because even 2 years ago, I was teaching like build your magic into every day rather than elaborate rituals. But like compared to now, what I was doing 2 years ago, I would consider an elaborate ritual.
Uh-huh.
Like I was like making the crystal grids and infusing the candles and like making my own sigils. And now so much of my magical practice is like, okay, I'm craving, eggs on toast. What is the intention behind eggs?
Mm-hmm.
Or okay, I'm decorating the back of my Kindle. Great. Instead of making my own sigil, this sticker is going to be imbued with the intention of this, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's become such, I don't even want to call it like lazy, but it's just truly been integrated into my day to day where it's like, I'm looking at my couch right now and I'm like, oh, if I was feeling like, a little overwhelmed or whatever, I would grab that blue blanket over the green blanket because, color magic. Or, like it's just become so a part of every day. Like I don't have to think about it anymore. I'm like, this morning when I got dressed, I was like, okay, I'm going to wear black for protection and I'm going to put blue on for calm. And then I'm going to stir sigil into my tea. And then I'm going to listen to, music that hypes me up. I don't know. It's just become so ingrained and become so much more, you're going to be shocked, but it's become so much more mundane. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
writing a book about mundane magic has really like shown me all the possibilities and almost like forced me outside of the box where it's like now when I find myself avoiding like a task in my home, I'm like, okay, how would I advise like one of my students or what would I write in my book about this? And most of them are in my book now, but it's like the other day I was like, I found myself putting off washing the dog's water bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That's like something I really struggle with. And so I like made a spell around that. And it was like, okay, this is a gratitude ritual now. And this is like, a time where I cleanse his energy and cleanse his space and whatever. And so I think for me, my practice has become so much more embedded into who I am rather than like taking time out of, like, I don't really have a time in my day that I sit down and quote unquote practice anymore. And especially now that we've moved and my office is still in construction, I don't really have a dedicated space either. So it's really forced me to just like infuse it and embed it into all areas of my life, which has been interesting because I thought that's what I was doing before, but it's just become so much more so now.
Yeah. Can I just say, like, watching you have that transformation over the last couple years has been so fun for me. I feel like a mommy bird watching my baby leave the nest, as you call yourself a witch publicly online. Because that's been so like a part of our friendship, like behind the scenes, like the way that you really have integrated so much. And you're not to say that you're not still like a skeptic at heart, because we still talk about the things that make us skeptical, and I still have that too, but I've really watched that part of you like step aside and watched you like fully step into a lot of shit. That's been so fun.
Yeah. I think what's changed, as you're saying that, what I realized what's changed is 2 years ago, I was really caught up in the outcome. If I did a ritual, it was because I wanted a specific outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I do an abundance spell because I wanted my training to sell.
Yeah.
Or I would do a protection spell to like get rid of trolls online or whatever. Nowadays, I do magic for the joy of doing magic, and I don't even think about the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I have an inherent trust because it's so built into my everyday that I don't feel like I can fail at it,
Yeah.
And that's come from just I no longer think about the outcome. I'm like, okay, I made my cinnamon toast yesterday for abundance, and I'm not sitting here being like, hello, cinnamon, where's my abundance?
Yeah. Uh-huh. I love that. That's like that level of trust is a thing. And I think that's such a powerful and like important thing to remember, is that when we talk about that trust, it's not something that you decide to have and you wake up with tomorrow. Because we were talking about trust 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, just because we're talking about it doesn't mean that we are perfect at it and fully integrated it. And it's like we are talking to ourselves sometimes just as much as we're talking to you guys.
Totally. Yeah. And I think like my trust in being a witch has grown too. Like the other day, I was really pissed off, and I can't share why because I signed a piece of paper saying I wouldn't talk shit. But prior to getting that piece of paper, I was very pissed off and I really wanted something to go my way. And so I did my due diligence. I did the logistical side of like, getting my receipts together and sending an email and whatever. But then I did a freezer spell. And I was like, you know what? Just for this freezer spell, I'm going to be pissed the fuck off. I'm going to own my anger and I'm just going to fucking be mad. And then I put it in the freezer and I was like, now I have to let it go. Mm-hmm. And then, you know what? The outcome went my way. So I was like, that was a very cathartic experience that also had a great outcome. And I will be blaming the freezer spell on that outcome. I will be giving full due diligence to myself.
Uh-huh. All right. Next, what are tips that you have on connecting with your spirit team?
Ooh, I was just talking to my Reiki 3 students about this. I think 99% of the time when you're struggling to connect with your spirit team, it's because you're overthinking what that communication should look like. Mm. So a lot of times we think our spirit team has to come to us in like a very clear form, like my grandmother appeared to me in my dreams or whatever, or they come to me with a very clear answer, like a very clear yes or a very clear no or a very clear do this. And while sometimes I think yes, that can happen, I think more often than not, the spirit team shows up in like little nudges. Like I think of it as like, I don't know why this analogy is coming through. So if it's for you, you're welcome. But it's coming through as sometimes we think our spirit team is going to slide into our DMs when in reality, what they might do is like a post. Mm-hmm. Or like, you know what I mean? Like they might nudge you in a direction or you might just get a hint of something. Or like for me, it took me a long time to connect with my spirit team because I'm not like, I don't see visual forms. Like I don't see faces when I experience clairvoyance. I just like experience the feeling of like the nebulous feeling of support. Like that, like I can't draw a picture of it. I can't describe it. I just feel supported. And that's how I know my team is there. And so if you're looking for like more, then you're bypassing what's there. And so I think curiosity is the ultimate path to connect.
Yeah. And I think it's like funny that we were talking about brain space earlier because when I was thinking on this question, I think like it's interesting, and this is a self call out, that I spend so much time asking my spirit team to send me information, and then I fill every moment of my day with other noise.
Yeah.
I do not sit in silence. And I think that's my biggest piece of advice is to spend more time in the quiet. Because imagine you're having a conversation with someone. Like imagine this podcast, but I just didn't shut the fuck up. And every time Molly started to speak, I started a sentence over her. Or I started playing TikToks, and I just didn't let her get a word in. That is what I do to my spirit team all damn day. We were talking about this with TikTok being down of like, how did we ever go to the bathroom before?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what did we do? What did we do? Because I went to the bathroom in our 14 hours without TikTok and I was like, well, this is misery.
Yeah.
And that is the moment where I was like, oh, maybe we need to go to phone rehab. But getting more comfortable with quiet.
Yeah. Allowing yourself to be bored.
Uh-huh. You have to give spirit the opportunity to say something, Yeah. Or the opportunity to be listened to, the opportunity to be heard, because there are 100% hundreds of things that I have missed because I am too busy in my own fucking world on my own shit to even think to look outside myself. I've seen people on TikTok really bring to our attention how much time we spend thinking about ourselves. I don't know if before social media and before the internet, and I could be very wrong, but I don't know that we spent so much time thinking about ourselves and how we're being perceived.
Oh yeah, definitely was not as much. I feel like as someone who grew up in the generation that both like I was raised in technology and without technology, I was in that like middle, I'm a millennial. I remember growing up, I was very aware of being perceived when I was in public, when I wasn't at home. And now with social media, I feel like we're always perceived all the time. And that has definitely been like a shift.
And so it's not even just like what you're consuming or like constantly having something playing, because I don't even really mean that. Like, I mean constantly giving your attention to something else or to yourself.
Yeah.
Constantly thinking about yourself in a way that is maybe not healthy. That is something that can cloud that as well. And that's something that, again, that is a self-call out more than anything else.
Yeah. I think in general, like, creating space is like the most obnoxious answer, but it is the first step. Like, creating space in your brain, creating space in your environment. Because I struggle to connect with my spirit team when my environment is really cluttered. And I used to think that was just my ADHD, but now I think of it as like, well, when I have guests over, I clean my house. And so when I invite people over, I want my house to be clean. Otherwise, I'm like making excuses why they can't come over. And so when I'm inviting my spirit team in, I want to make sure the trash is taken out. I'm like, the cleaner my house is, or not even cleaner, but like the more presentable I feel like my house is, the more my spirit team shows up.
That is so interesting. I love that comparison.
It is. I did talk about it a lot in my book, so it is forefront of my mind. It's like, how can I make taking the trash out witchy?
The same can be said for like our mental health too. Of like, if your brain is in a place that you want to be in, you don't want to invite people over to it.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And also, like, when you feel grouchy, when your needs aren't being met, like when I'm in a hangry monster, I don't want people over. It's like, oh, okay, weird and annoying that when I prioritize drinking enough water, keeping my space organized, sleeping enough, and eating 3 meals a day, like my spiritual practice is deeper and more
It is
connected.
heinous how
It's
true
so
that
annoying.
is. It is so heinous that we have to take care of ourselves. And then when we do, it has really great positive consequences.
Yeah. Also, I think honoring that your relationship with your spirit team is going to ebb and flow, just like your relationship with like certain friends. You know, there might be times when you're really, really close and feeling really social, and there might be times where you feel a little bit more introverted and you don't want to, or you don't feel as connected, and that's normal too. Like, your spirit team's not going anywhere. I like to think of them as like, you know, if you like a family member that you have a good positive relationship with but maybe lives further away. It's like you can connect with them really intentionally and build and develop that relationship, or, you know, you could kind of like let them go, but every time you come back to them, you're going to have that strength.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Your spirit team's like your favorite auntie.
Yeah, exactly. Next, how do I identify quote unquote real metaphysical stores as opposed to marketing scams?
So I don't know if I'm interpreting this question correctly, because I think like this has different answers online versus in person.
Yeah, I think we should tackle it online and in person separately.
I'm going to give an in-person answer.
Oh, perfect.
And maybe you want to give an online answer, because I think that they're very different. And I'm going to say something that might be, I don't know if it's controversial. I'm going to say something that is maybe like unpopular online, which is, and this is a conversation that we've been having a lot in the store, actually. Like, Anthony and I have been talking about this a lot, which is that people are mostly good. It takes a lot of effort and money and work to open any retail space.
Yeah. I was going to say the majority of physical spaces I don't worry about.
Especially from the idea of it being a scam.
Quality, different conversation. Yes, different conversation. But,
and I'll talk about that too. But I think that this is something that comes up a lot in any kind of marginalized community, which I do think that like witches are, we are othered.
Yeah.
Obviously in a very different way. Like, I'm not equating that to any other kind of marginalization, but it is.
Right.
If it's something that people get made fun of for, or people think that we're crazy or stupid or whatever it is, you know, that's a form of othering. And so I think that that builds up this defensive layer to us that we want to make sure we like protect our soft underbellies.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're going into a physical space, it will serve you so well to try as hard as you can to let that down. Because I think I made this joke when we talked to Anthony a couple weeks ago of like, if I was in it for the get rich quick, I don't know that I would have chosen metaphysics. There are a lot of things that I could have done if I wanted to scam people out of money. large amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that metaphysics are it. And so that applies, I think, to every store. And so while like your level of resonance with each store, your level of like enjoyment in each store might change, I don't think that you're going to walk into like any metaphysical store and it be like a full front scam. That person thinks that you're stupid. That person doesn't believe in any of this, you know, like they're just in it for the money.
Yeah.
And so I think going into those spaces with a level of vulnerability really will serve you well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll be able to see things a little bit clearer.
I think sometimes this comes up to, like, we got a question recently, I think someone DM'd us, where like they had a metaphysical store that was run by like white practitioners who were selling white sage or like other culturally appropriated tools. And they're like, should I still shop from there? Should I not? And the way that I kind of look at that, because I think that could be kind of grouped in like, you know, sometimes I see that like grouped in as like, oh, you shouldn't shop there because they sell white sage or whatever. The way that I look at that is you're allowed to go shop at a store, you know, participate in a store and not buy every single thing that they sell.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been to stores before. I'm not going to name and shame them, but there is a chain of stores locally that they have some good stuff, but they also have some like very clear cultural appropriation. And when I go in that store and there's something that like I don't go in very often, but like if I'm going in with a friend or whatever and I see something that I might want, I tend to ask myself like, okay, could I get this somewhere else that maybe doesn't do that?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this the only option that I have?
Yeah.
Right. And for some people, like they don't have a big metaphysical community. They don't have a big, you know, they don't have options. And so I don't think we should shame people for shopping at stores that maybe sell things that we wouldn't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
But also like if that makes you uncomfortable, then like you don't have to shop there. I think that's like where that discernment piece can come in again.
And I think like it's important to know that there is also like nuance to some of those conversations as well, because like so we don't sell white sage like as a point. We don't do it. We won't do it. We once bought kits from somewhere that we didn't realize had white sage in them, and we took all of the white sage out and donated the white sage. Like it is really important to us. So I don't want you to like I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying, as I don't think it's important, because I do. But there have been times like people, Indigenous Americans, have come into the stores and said, why don't you have white sage? Like, I'm looking for white sage.
Yeah.
And, you know, I explain why, obviously. But there is, like, I see where there's, you know, difficulty on all sides.
Yeah.
And so that's not to, like, excuse people participating in cultural appropriation. But I do think it is also important to note that, like, there are situations in which, one, a lot of people really don't know. Like, I know it seems like the way that we talk online that everybody would know by now.
But that's because your algorithm is tailored to you.
Yes. And especially people who have been in these spaces for like a really long time, like older people who have had these shops for 20, 30 years and have always sold white sage and have never seen it that way or never been told that it's a close practice or whatever. Like that's a lot harder of a jump to make to like, okay, well now what do I do with all my white sage?
Yeah. Or what do I do with like my customers who are expecting it? And like there is a layer of like, you know, I people ask me like, do you educate people? Do you whatever? And like, that's a question of like what energy level you have. When I'm shopping at a metaphysical store, there are days where I just want to go in and I just want to be a shopper. I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be responsible for educating people. And I know that's like a privileged take. But I also like, I know I would burn out if I had to educate every single person that I ran into that used white sage.
Yeah. And there are also like a lot of times you don't know when you walk into a store, like you don't know who owns that store. If a white person is helping you, you don't know for certain that it's like a white owned store. There's like complications. And so you don't want to walk in as a white person and be like, hey, do you know that this is culturally appropriative? And then somebody walks up from the back and is like, yes, white lady, I know. And so there's just like, it's all complicated and everybody has to make their own choices and have their own beliefs about it.
Yeah.
And not even, maybe that's not the right way to say that. I don't know. I'm stressed.
Yeah. I would say like when it comes to shopping in person, I think the vibe and your discernment is the most important
Yeah.
part. Is it the whole store you don't vibe with? Is it a part of the store? Is it
That's how I need to
that's
how I need to word what I want to say. There we go. I think it's important, like, going back to letting that soft underbelly out. Like, before you go into a space guns a-blazing and assuming that they must be horrible people because they have XYZ thing, I think taking time to get to know the people in the store, that's how you know the intentions of those people and if it is worth having the conversation. Because there are some people that you'll walk in and they'll say, fuck you, I don't care about cultural appropriation, like, I've been doing it this way for however long and I don't need you.
And then you have your
answer.
answer.
So there's your answer. But then if you go in and you spend time with people and you recognize that they do care and they are interested in learning and you do want to have that conversation, that's a whole different story. And so, not to say that either are scams, but it's like, where do you want to give your energy?
Vote with your dollars.
So what about online? What are some ways to tell the real places from the scam places? This feels like a more cut and dry, like, scam situation. Like,
so red flags that I look out for, and this used to come up a lot in like 2021 when Moldavite was first like really, really trending. I happen to know the cycles of trend for Moldavite because I had a video that went super, super viral in 2021. And every couple of months, that video will get like 50,000 views. And I'll be like, Madison, Moldavite's trending again. But the number one thing that I look out for is when you're shopping online, does the shop sell metaphysical items? Or does it sell random shit plus crystals?
That's interesting.
Because I remember a lot of the scam stores, like the true, like, hard and fast scam stores, it was like they would sell Moldavite, whatever crystal was also popular, so like carnelian at the time, and then like a 3D tiger portrait and like a massage, like shoulder massager and like a, whatever, like random shit. What I really like to do, if I'm not sure if an online store is a scam or not, I like to find their social media. So I would say most, legitimate stores that are, they have websites or whatever, because a lot of these scams will have like well done websites, but then you go to their social links at the bottom and it won't go to a profile. Or it will go to a brand new profile that only has like stock images and doesn't have any tags or follows or whatever. So I will kind of suss that out. I will also look up like reviews. Like, I will often Google the company name. And personally, to just avoid scams altogether, what I do is I shop from retail stores that also have online. So like your shops, I feel pretty comfortable shopping from.
Pretty comfortable.
I just purchased your biggest order ever.
What could I do to make you feel more comfortable shopping at my small business, Molly? Please let me know. Pretty comfortable, my ass.
I also, like, if I'm not sure about a shop and they also have an Etsy, I might make my first purchase from their Etsy.
Ooh, that's a great point.
Yeah, because there's more protections in place through that platform. And then I like to, once I kind of like the shop, I go straight to their website because then they don't have to worry about the Etsy fees or whatever. And that's one of the ways that like we can contribute to small businesses more. But that's typically what I do, is just kind of like suss it out. If I get any like, I don't know about this, one thing that I love to do is I love to DM them a question. Ooh. And if they don't answer my question, or if they answer my question in kind of like a vague way, or they try to push me into a sale, or like for me, this is specific to me, but they won't answer me, but they'll be like, hey, we want to send you some stuff if you make a post, then that's a red flag for me.
Also, I think like if you, specifically with crystals, if you have a shop that you're not sure about and you are like, especially if you're purchasing from a place like Etsy where there are protections, one of the most common fake crystals that I think is easiest to identify is malachite.
Oh,
so
yeah.
buy a malachite tumble of some sort, because they are so frequently made of plastic and it's very obvious, in my opinion. It's very easy to tell. And if not, there's like lots of tests. Like you can use like a lighter, and if it melts, obviously.
Don't do that. Don't do that. That's very dangerous.
Oh, sorry. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, fake malachite will look like if you Google fake malachite, you'll see
Yeah.
pictures of it, but it always looks like clay to me, like polymer clay, or the rings just look too perfect. The other thing that I do if I'm not sure about a shop is I will look up crystals that I know are commonly like mislabeled. So I will look up moonstone, and if they have opalite labeled as moonstone, that's a red flag for me. And if you Google moonstone versus opalite, you'll see like very clear distinctions. Opalite is made of glass. And a lot of times the websites that are run by people who aren't like real crystal curators and lovers will just like take their wholesaler at face value and call it moonstone.
And I think that's like something that's important too. Sorry, not to cut you off, but in that situation, again, like coming from the perspective of a shop owner, because I've had earrings before. Do you remember this?
I do remember this.
Oh my God. We were sold fake malachite earrings, and I had the most embarrassing moment of my life because they were featured in a video on my TikTok, and everybody was like, those are not malachite. Those are not malachite. And so while I say it's very obvious to tell, it's very obvious to tell in a situation like a tumble. And I reached out to the brand, and they sold the earrings to us as malachite. But then when I asked them questions, they were like, oh, it wasn't clay. It was like
resin?
No, it was like other stones. Like they had like put together like some malachite with some other stones.
Synthetic.
Yeah, like to make it look like malachite.
Yeah, they synthesized it.
And so how somebody responds when you point out that distinction.
Yes.
Like if you message someone, you say, hey, these are labeled moonstone, but they look like opalite. Can you tell me like what's going on?
Yeah.
If they're like, because I've never felt embarrassment and shame like I did.
Yeah.
And God bless America. I had only sold that one pair of those earrings, and I sold them to a friend who is not a crystal person. She's just like a cutie jewelry person. And so I called her and I was like, those aren't real malachite. I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. She's like, I do not give a shit. Like, I just like these earrings. And we sent them back, whatever, blah, blah. I don't shop with those people anymore. I won't name and shame.
Yeah. I think too, like, discerning how they talk about it. I also look for like, I read the about me about shops. I read their stories. A lot of times you can tell when they're AI generated. Those are usually scams. Or the other thing I look at is pricing. So this is like a fun behind the scenes because I have a large following. I get emails every single day from random crystal shops. And this is what I do to see if they're scams, is I go and I look at their pricing. And I've become really familiar with crystal pricing at this point. But I look at what I would think is the cheapest thing in their shop and the price of that. And if I go, then I know there's something wrong. Like, remember the other day when I sent you a picture and I was like, guess how much this bracelet costs? It's it's amethyst and silver. And you're like, I don't know, like $25. And I was like, $763. I was like, abso-fucking-lutely not. And they had no social media. All their reviews seemed like AI generated with like stock images. It was just like absurd. I was just like, no.
People are wilding out here.
I know.
All right.
So yeah, I think the more you look at them, the more you get better at it. But when in doubt, just shop from a retail store that has an online presence, or shop from Madison stores.
Listen, I wouldn't be mad about it, but I do think like I know that this is something that's not available to everyone. But I really do think that like going to your local metaphysical store and establishing a relationship there, like that is not, I don't want to say the best way to do it, but that is like, that's the tried and true, right? Like that's a way that fills your cup, not only like spiritually, but also on like a human level. And I think that that's really important.
Yes. Next.
All right. Burned another simmer pot this morning. Any alternatives to running the stove? I chose this question purely because I was obsessed with the wording. Burned another simmer pot.
Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Okay, I have been testing out different methods of simmer potting that people have tagged me in. So I do have definitive answers for you.
Great, because I don't, because I'm not really a simmer pot person.
I recently purchased a candle warmer. I did a review of this on Instagram because everyone kept tagging me in this like candle warmer simmer pot. And it works. However, it does not throw the scent as far. and it does char. Like if you have any ingredients that are sticking out of the water, like I had a cinnamon stick and some cranberries sticking out of the water, and those got charred. So I can't tell you like it definitively like this is a safe alternative, but the candle warmer I have, it has a timer on it. So you can do 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours. And I think as long as you're in the same room as it, it's less, like the water did not evaporate as fast as a simmer pot does. So that's one option. Another option I have is, and these are all on my Amazon storefront. If you go to my Instagram bio under shop, you'll see it. I have a mini cauldron that hangs over a tea light.
I was just about to say, we sell those in the store. And
there you go.
The tea light makes its own
from the store.
Little, buy them from the store.
But I like that one because I turn the tea light into a spell candle and then it doubles up.
And it's like its own, like it's a natural timer.
Yes.
It's nature's timer.
Nature's timer. Yeah. So that's one that I like because it's a very, very small amount of liquid and small amount of herbs. So that's one I'll keep like on my desk. And then the third one that people have told me about is the crock pot. So you get a 2-quart crock pot or 3-quart, whatever you have, and you put the simmer pot in there. I have not been able to make that work. So but I get comments every single day from people who do this. So I know it does work. I haven't had the patience really to like toy around with it. From what I've heard, people have said you keep the lid on until it gets hot and then you open the lid up and that works. I tried with the lid off the whole time and I could not get it to throw the scent. So those are my recommendations. Take them or leave them.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
Do we do it?
I think we did it.
Proud of us.
Look at us go. Love that for us.
Okay.
All right.
Love that for us.
If you have any cues that we maybe haven't aired yet, we have a Google form in the show notes. If you want to ask us a question, give a suggestion for a future episode. We love to hear from you. Let us know what you thought. And go support your local metaphysical store, especially if you live in St. Petersburg or Tarpon Springs, Florida.
Subtle. Very subtle.
Love you guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison. If you want to learn more about us, you can find all our links in the show notes.
We'd love to know what you think of today's episode, so drop us a review or give us a shout out on social media. And don't forget to let us know your magical moment of the week. Okay, love you. Bye.